Thanks everyone for joining me today. I know it's lunchtime. Some of you might be having your lunch, so do enjoy your food while I talk about some of the latest cybersecurity threats and how to protect yourself against them. I'm sure these few days, everyone is very, very concerned over the OCBC scams, right? So naturally, I'll also be covering some topics around that. Okay. Okay, but before I start, just some disclaimer, because after all, this webinar, I'm going to be doing some hacking attacks. So I'm going to be showing you the real life anatomy of how a hack looks like from the perspective of the attacker. So from that perspective, right, I would have some disclaimer. Do not do this at home. Do not go to YouTube and download videos and watch videos to learn how to hack. So all of this is done in a controlled environment, and that's why I have to state up front. Okay, as mentioned, this is something about myself. I'm currently working in NUS. That's my alma mater also, and in the central NUS IT, where I lead the cybersecurity team. So other than working, I enjoy speaking at conferences. I do mentorship for security startups. And now I'm also an instructor at the School of Computing, which is why I'm doing this webinar for all of you right now. So in today's agenda, we are going to be covering a little bit on social engineering, because that's the latest trend. It's always been ongoing and it's ever evolving. Then we're going to touch on malware, passwords, and a little bit on Wi-Fi security. But before I begin, I always believe that in every hacking scenario, it is much easier to convince someone of the threat if they see the attack happening in real life. So this is exactly what I'm going to do before I even get started. I'm going to show you a live hacking demonstration, right? Okay, so let's begin. Over here, I have two machines. As you can see, this one is the wolf and naturally is the attacker. And over here, we have the lamb, and this will be the victim. Now, the victim is running a version of Windows 7, which is really outdated. And that's why I'm able to use it to showcase vulnerabilities on the operating system itself. As for this is Kali Linux. This is an open source software that is used by hackers or penetration testers, as we like to call them, the ethical hackers. So this is freely downloadable. It's not a tool that you have to buy in the black market or for a lot of money. It's really something you can download and use. Okay, so let's see how we can get started. Firstly, on every single day, we are going to be looking at our emails, right? So over here, I've seen that someone has sent me a resume, and I'm going to just open it. So with the resume open, I can see that all the text is available. And over here, right at the top, you can see that there is an enable editing button. Maybe just a show of hands at the moment. How many of you actually click this enable editing button whenever you receive a Word document and you open it? Anyone? Right. Okay, no need to be shy. That's exactly what most people would do. But you see, in this particular instance, there is actually no need for me to click on enable editing because I can already see all of the text, right? So actually, I don't have to do that. And I will just go on with my work as per normal. So assuming I do not click enable editing, okay, I will just close the entire document right now. Now, what about in this other scenario where I actually have a zip file that is password protected? So in order for me to open that document, I would need to go through several hoops, which is to first open the zip file, enter the password, which is already given to me. So by appealing to natural human emotions, right, I'm even more curious to open that file right now. So naturally, I'm going to open it, and it's going to prompt me for the password, which has already been given to me by the same email. Okay, so I'm going to open that. Now, look at the difference between this document and the previous one. Over here, you can see that all of the text is blurred, right? The text is blurred. And naturally, as a human being, I really want to see what's behind that blurred text, right? So naturally, what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on enable editing because I want to see And then at the same time, there is a new warning over here. It says security warning, macros have been disabled, but I still cannot see it. And over here, look at what the message is telling me. To view, click on enable editing. So naturally, I'm just going to click on it, right? Okay, so I'm going to click on it. Hey, nothing has happened. So I thought that, hey, it's a bug. Maybe I'm going to call help desk. I'm going to email back the person and say, hey, how come you send me a document like that? But because nothing has happened, so naturally, I'm going to close. Okay, and I'm just going to go about my daily activities. But unknowing to you or the victim in this case, there has already been a connection established back to the attacker. Now, those of you who can understand this, you can appreciate it, but there's no need for you to really understand what's going on here. Just know that simply by opening that document and clicking on all those buttons, right, and a network connection has been established between the victim and the attacker in this case. So let's see what the attacker can do. Okay, firstly, he can list the files that are present on the victim's computer. So we have some interesting files here, right? We can see appraisal, we can see salary. So why not let's just download those files to the attacker's computer. So let's download appraisal and download salary. As easy as that. Now, just to confirm that there are exactly these files present, we can look at, the My Documents on the victim's computer, and you can see there is an appraisal and there is also a salary, right? Okay, so coming back to this. So now that I've downloaded these files onto the attacker's machines, right? Let's look at what I have downloaded here. So I can see appraisal and salary being downloaded. Let's try to open which one first. I think appraisal, right? Because that's less sensitive. So by opening it, you can see that I can actually see the actual document of the appraisal. Scary, right? But what about salary? Okay, so this is probably salary information. So when I click and open on it, it prompts me with a password. So I'm sure some of you have the habit of password protecting your documents, right? Which is an excellent practice. So this is exactly why, in this case, even though the attacker downloaded the file, I'm unable to actually open the file. See, if I enter a password, I try to guess the password, it says that the password is incorrect. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to show you, files that can be so easily downloaded. Okay, next thing I'm going to show you is on browser security. So now with this out and away, okay, we are coming back to our victim, and as usual, what do you usually do? Maybe check your personal emails. So over here, what you do is log into Gmail, and over here, after logging in, there is a password, right? That is saved in the browser. Maybe just a show of hands again, how many of you actually save your passwords in your browser, like Chrome or Firefox? Yeah, I can see quite a number. Okay, so that's just to show that people do that. If I were to show the password here, you can see that, wow, this is a very strong password, right? It has small characters, capitals, it has punctuation, it has numbers, it's long. So naturally a strong password that cannot be easily cracked. But yet at the same time, let's see how the attacker is then able to obtain this password over here. So what I'm going to do, coming over here, which is accessing the victim's computer, I'm going to use this tool called ChromePass to extract the password, and let's see what we have. Okay, so do you see over here? This is the password exactly, right? So this password is exactly the same as what I've typed, indicating that it is so easy to just extract the password. I didn't even have to wait or crack anything at all. Okay, so let's see what other passwords we can crack. So as you guys know, every time when we log into Windows, right, we have to enter our password, correct? So in this case, the password for John will be exposed through the next example I'm going to show you. So let's go to the next demonstration. Sorry, just give me a moment. Okay, so what I've done here is your Windows login. Look at here. So we have this as the password, which is don't tell you. So this is another example, right, of how the Windows password has been exposed simply by establishing that connection. Okay, so you might think, I have a strong password and all of these things. There's even more damage that can be done. So I'm sure some of you have heard of keyloggers. So that's exactly what I'm going to demonstrate next, where we're going to show that you can actually capture any keystrokes entered. So for example, if I were to compose an email and saying that, okay, so this is a sample of an email that I've constructed. And look at what happens when the attacker dumps that. It's exactly in its entirety what you have just typed. So imagine all the confidential information, passwords, or even OTPs that is the latest this point of discussions, right? Everything can be exposed this way. Okay. And last but not least, which is also the most intrusive, as we always say, you always have to do something about your webcam. What do you have to do with your webcam? You have to cover it, right? So let's see what happens if you do not cover your webcam. So as you can see here, I just opened a command which I try to invoke the webcam. Of course, now my webcam cover is closed, but look what happens when I open the cover. Okay, so this is exactly what the attacker can see, right? So it's that dangerous. So yes, that brings me to a close to the hacking demonstration, which hope that you are not too freaked out by, but that's exactly how easy it is for an attack to happen. Okay, so I know there are many questions here, which I will then answer later on, because some of the questions I might already be answering along the way. Okay, let's quickly move on. So what are some of the lessons learned that we have? Lessons that we have learned through this demonstration here. Social engineering, right? Always preys on humans as the weakest link. As you recall, in that particular demonstration, there were multiple traps which the attacker laid to trick or to attempt to trick the victim into doing actions such as clicking on buttons. And the most scary thing is that after the victims clicked on those buttons, right, there wasn't any visible signs that there was a compromise going on, right? So that can be pretty scary. Then at the same time, malware, as you have seen, can infect the machine with no symptoms at all. So there was actually a malware running in the background that was communicating with the attacker that caused all of the actions which I demonstrated to happen. Important documents, please password protect them, because there is a chance that it might land up in someone or attacker's machine, and being password protected adds that additional layer. However, as you can see, right, because of the presence of keyloggers, it does not mean that you password protect. What if I were opening that document and then I key in a password and the attacker was just doing a keylogger? So at that instant in time, right, what will happen is that the password will just be captured, and you will still, the attacker will still be able to open that document, right? And you see in the browsers in Chrome, okay, never ever store your passwords in the browser itself, because they are stored in an insecure manner, causing it to be retrieved or reversed in a very easy manner. Last but not least, for your own privacy, always have a webcam cover. We always talk about that. I'm sure many of you already have that. And there are so many free gifts these days, which are webcam covers. So make good use of those, cover out your webcams. And I'm sure you also know that there's going to be a light whenever the webcams are activated. So look out for that light also. That is something which most hackers won't be able to turn off. So if you see the light and the webcam cover, that should be rather good. Okay, but even before you fall prey to all this, I think it's really important to know how to avoid being a victim. So let's look at phishing. So I'm sure many of you or all of you know what's phishing, right? And that's exactly what happened during the OCBC scam that just happened. So what are some of the telltale signs for phishing? There's a generic tone, because when email phishing is done, the attackers usually send it to a wide audience. So when they send it to a wide audience, they don't know that it's you, and they're just going to send hi owner, hi office person, something like that. That's very generic. Also, be on the lookout for unexpected requests. Right? Are you actually expecting that email? Are you actually expecting the SMS? If you are not, always err on the side of caution and think before you perform any action, such as clicking on links. Hey, look at the sender email. So many times these days, for staff, especially HOD, senior management within your own companies, you are going to be receiving emails from them, but seemingly coming from another free email provider. So for example, in our case, our president of NUS, Tan Ning Chai, his email is tanningschai@nus.edu.sg. But if one day I receive an email, tanningschai@hotmail.com or at gmail.com, then I must be ready, because I don't know whether that's his personal email, and I always need to verify before I answer or do anything with regards to that email. And as I've explained, there's always emotional factors. That's how the attackers prey on you as a victim, because humans are often susceptible to emotional cues. So as you can see, right, the fact in that demonstration, it was blurred out, the text was blurred out. I couldn't see the text, and therefore I wanted to click on it. It's a very instinctive thing. Later, I'm going to show you an example of some other things that tricks that the attackers use. There's also a request for personal or sensitive information. Sometimes, whether it's directly from the email or clicking on the link in the email, bringing you to a web page, and then that web page soliciting for all of this information. So whenever you have to key in any kind of sensitive information or passwords, okay, be on the lookout. And if there are links or attachments, that is really one of the telltale signs. Even though, yeah, you want to tell me almost every email I receive has a link, right, that asks me to click. Even SMSs have a click, which is why now the MAS has mandated that the banks cannot send links within their SMSs anymore. So how do you check for links? You do that mouse over, and some people might ask me on a mobile phone, what do I do? So you do the tap and hold. So I'm going to demonstrate or show how that looks like. So let's look at a sample phishing here, where it is one of the emails that we crafted as one of our phishing drills. So I'm going to use this as an example of how to show the telltale signs. So firstly, as I said, it came from a Gmail account and not our typical corporate email account. Secondly, a generic greeting, as I've mentioned, request for personal information. Now, these days, this kind of phishing are quite outdated. Attackers are getting smarter all the time, right? Because that's the thing about cybersecurity. In cybersecurity, you're never putting yourself against a machine. You're always putting yourself against someone else on the other side of the machine, which is a human being. So they will evolve, they will improve, they will get better with their techniques. So that's something that is really scary, and something that we all need to evolve together with them and to learn together with them. Okay, the sense of urgency again, preying on the human emotions, because in this case, if you don't do it within this time, something's going to happen. What's going to happen is going to be a deletion. So it's a scare tactic, yet another emotional motivation. And last but not least, a generic sender. Now, it might not be like that all the time, but naturally, again, if it's a mass phishing email, they are going to be signing off as something like that. And last but not least, as I said, the link always mouse over, such that you can examine that link and to tell whether it is phishing, a phishing link or a suspicious link. These days, it's getting more and more challenging to identify the links. So in the past, right, we used to tell people, oh, just look at, you must find the nus.edu.sg, but it's not as straightforward anymore. But in the interest of time, I cannot go into a lengthy explanation or discussion on that. Okay, so if you guys are interested, please come for our courses instead. So I talked about on mobile devices, what do you do? So if you have a link on the mobile device, people are going to ask me, right? Hey, how do you mouse over on the mobile device? There's no mouse, So no mouse, what do? You tap on the link and you hold it down, and there'll be a pop-up. So this happens for both iOS and Android. It's just that, the demonstration here is for an iOS device, but it works exactly the same as for Android, and you will get a link preview. So if you were to notice here, the preview is vastly different from the actual URL here. See? So naturally, it's suspicious and you shouldn't click on it. So in the demonstration, we also saw a malware being installed into the victim's computer without the victim knowing. So how can you prevent some of these malware? Always ensure that your operating system and your software are supported and frequently patched. This applies for all systems, whether it is desktops, notebooks, or even mobile devices, right? So you have all of these firmware updates and software updates, like operating system updates, iOS updates, Android updates. So make sure that it's updated. There is a reason why people push updates. Of course, sometimes it's features, but these days, more often than not, it's because of security. So whenever there is a vulnerability that can be exploited, just like in that example which I showed, right, it's because I was using a very old version of Windows 7 as the victim's computer, and that had a lot of bugs or vulnerabilities, as we call it. So the attacker could exploit that vulnerability to install the malware. So similarly, in order for you to prevent that from happening, you have to ensure that your operating system and software is updated. Okay, and if the attack comes true, if there is a malware, then be sure to have an antivirus. In that machine, there was no antivirus, okay, which is why it was not caught. But these days, with Windows 10, which is on most of our Windows desktops, you do not have to worry, because Windows Defender is one of the best antiviruses that Microsoft has bundled with the operating system. So people might ask me, what about Macs? I think Macs, Mac OS PCs, Mac OS machines like MacBooks, they are relatively safer. I cannot say that they are 100% safe, because there's no such thing as 100% in cybersecurity, right? So I can say that they are safer, but there are also antivirus. It is not as necessary, but you also can get yourself an antivirus installed on the Mac if you are using that. Hey, install apps from only trusted sources, which means that coming from the App Store, or the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. That's for mobile. And for Mac OS, you have even your App Store on your Mac OS now. For Windows, you have your Windows Store. Now, try not to just download EXE and install them unless you're very, very sure what you're doing. Okay? Because these days, no one knows what can happen for downloading files and just running them. Okay, so that's something which you have to exercise extra caution, especially if you are not very savvy. Okay, as usual, don't click on any links or open any attachments. And in the wake of ransomware that is very rampant now, ransomware, for those of you who are unaware, is a particular kind of malware which prevents you from accessing your files on your system by encrypting them. And if you do not pay the ransom, which is usually in Bitcoins, they will not give you the password or the decryption key to open your files. So always have a backup strategy. In case this happens to you, right, you still have a copy of your files and you will not need to rely on paying a ransom. In fact, you should never ever pay a ransom. Okay. Coming to the browser part, this is where many of us think that, for convenience, we just save our passwords on the browsers. And in that case, right, it might not be the wisest thing to do. As I've demonstrated, I could just reverse and find that password easily, even though it's strong, because it was just stored as it is. So if not, you might ask me, it's going to be very inconvenient, right? I'm not going to be one day you tell me do not use the same password for all my sites. Next day you tell me do not save the password. So what do you expect me to do? So what I can advise here is to use a password manager, because a password manager has many different security features that enable you to securely store your passwords. It even generates passwords for you so that you can have a unique password for every single site. And it also supports multiple platforms. So for example, if you say, hey, I have an Android phone, I have an iOS phone, I have a Windows desktop, I have a Mac OS, I want my password to be accessible on all of them. Yeah, all of these password managers can do that. So here I have two recommendations for free for those of you who want to opt for something which is free, you can look at Bitwarden. And I personally have been using 1Password for quite a number of years now. I find it to be reliable, but that is a paid option. Okay, so it's really up to you to go find out more about this. Okay, next on 2FA, yes. Again, 2FA is a controversial topic in these few days, right? Because people say, even though the banks have 2FA, they have the OTP, but still the scams went through and the scammers actually got the money. So even though OTPs are another layer of defense, right? There is, again, no 100% security, because what happens when you enter a 2FA OTP number, there is actually a span of time which it is valid for, 30 seconds, for example. So if you were to key that in to a phishing site and the attackers were to get hold of that and they manage to log in themselves using that OTP within that 30-second window, which is very possible with automation, then it is really not that secure anymore. But that's it, right? You cannot just use that as an example to discount two-factor authentication altogether. It is definitely very necessary, because like in the examples that I've shown, passwords can be easily compromised. Okay? So in fact, passwords are a thing of the past. We are moving towards passwordless now. That's another conversation. But in the absence of that, always enable 2FA for most of for your important services, even your social media accounts. So I have links here, which I can share later on how do you enable 2FA on most of your common accounts. Okay, remember that in that example, there was also that password file that couldn't be opened by the attacker, right? So there are many different ways of protecting your data via password protection or encryption, as we call it technically. So for Windows systems, Mac OS, Office documents, this is just a non-exhaustive list of tools that are already built in or free to obtain from the internet that you can use to protect your files. So these protection can work in various ways. Take, for example, BitLocker. If you were to lose your laptop, that is BitLocker protected. Whether you lose it in the airport, in the train, in the bus, in a plane, someone picking it up will not be able to access the data from within. Of course, in the case of the example which I mentioned, because you are actually using that computer, so it does not really protect yourself against that. But then again, it's always about defense in many different layers, right? So that's where we would like to protect ourselves by using various technologies, right? How about Wi-Fi? Okay, so now deviating from the demonstration itself, I'll really like to emphasize on the dangers of free Wi-Fi, right? Because every time, no, okay, we have not been traveling due to COVID situation, but now with VTLs, I'm sure everyone starts to travel again. And when you travel, what's the first thing you do when you reach the hotel? Or even when you reach the airport? Hey, where's the Wi-Fi? You know, I need to access my TikTok account. So that's really one of the basic necessities of humans at this point in time, right? Unfortunately. So free Wi-Fi, what are the dangers of free Wi-Fi? Okay, there are a lot of potential attacks that can happen. I can do a demonstration, of course, but because we only have an hour today, I can't really do that. But short of having a demonstration, right, you just have to take my word that it is dangerous. And what I can advise instead is that instead of using free Wi-Fi, right, bring along a mobile hotspot. So these days you can rent that, and even phones can act as a mobile hotspot too, right? So use that. Try not to use free Wi-Fi. For public Wi-Fi hotspots such as Starbucks, McDonald's, choose in the first place. If you were to ask me, I'm not going to be joining any of these free Wi-Fi because who knows, who I might be lurking there. But if you die have to log into, then do not choose the auto join option, which means that you unclick the auto join option. Why? This is because someone else somewhere might be pretending to be the free Starbucks and the free McDonald's hotspot. So for example, if you're on the bus, obviously on the bus, there is no free McDonald's Wi-Fi or free McDonald's or free Starbucks Wi-Fi, right? But if some attacker were to be riding on the same bus as you or the same MRT as you, and they are generating this fake hotspot, which is so easy to do, anyone can do that, you will be joining their hotspot, and then all your data will be passing through that person's device, which then he or she can choose to capture. So that is really dangerous. Avoid the use of open Wi-Fi hotspots. What do I mean by open? So you can see when you join a Wi-Fi, there's a lock icon, right? Which means no lock. Okay, those that have no lock. Why do you want to avoid? Because in the case of a lock, what does a lock mean? A lock means that whatever traffic that is passing through the network in that Wi-Fi network is encrypted, which means that someone is unable to sniff or eavesdrop on the traffic. However, if there is no lock icon, it means that someone is then able to tap on the traffic. So imagine that Wi-Fi traffic is actually flowing in the air, right? Just that we cannot see the Wi-Fi signals. But because the Wi-Fi signals are in the air, it's very easy for someone to tap on that signal, as opposed to if I want to tap on your phone, I must do it via the wire. But since all of the signals are traveling through the air, it's so easy for me to tap on it. And if it's unencrypted, that means that I can easily tap and, for example, look at your passwords, look at the pictures that you are actually surfing, amongst other things. Okay, so that's the danger. So say someone were to ask me, but I'm very, very desperate. I really, really need, to use all the free Wi-Fi and they are not encrypted. So what do I do? Okay, what you have to do is to use a VPN, because when you use a VPN, all of the connections that you perform through that Wi-Fi connection network will be encrypted. So think of VPN like an extra protection for you to encrypt all of the data that is flowing through the wireless network. And last but not least, always be very, very vigilant. Never conduct any kind of transactions that you are that's sensitive, for example, banking or even logging into email, because who knows that the traffic or the application that you are using, right, might not be encrypting that traffic. So if it's not encrypted, that will result in possible eavesdropping or sniffing. So let's come to the final topic for today, which is on everyone's mind, the OCBC case. For those of you who haven't read the news, this is really big now, with over nearly 470 people losing $8.5 million worth of their savings. So just yesterday, this man said that he lost half a million of his life savings, right? So you can see the extent. I'm not sure if you can put yourself in their shoes and try to imagine what it's like for them. So I really cannot imagine. But at the same time, OCBC said they're going to be giving out full payouts for goodwill, and let's hope that really happens and everyone gets their money back. So how do we prevent something like that, which is smishing or SMS phishing? always remember that the SMS sender can be spoofed, especially in Singapore. Now, in some countries, this cannot happen. So it really depends on the telco. Unfortunately, our telcos allow this to happen, which means that someone can send you an SMS and put their name as anything they like. They can send you as OCBC, they can send you as DBS, they can send you as UOB, can send you as your mom, anyone. Okay, so by doing that, right, what will happen is that, as you can see, those of you who are following the news, the SMS actually appears in the same thread as your previous messages, thinking, so that will lead you to think that it is legitimate, because you might think that it has come from the bank, since I had a previous conversation with that, and that is actually very wrong. So always remember that SMS senders can be spoofed. Okay, avoid the use of SMS OTP. Now, this has already been one of the major discussion points, whether OTP or one-time passwords over SMS is considered secure. So it has already been deemed to be insecure. And instead, what you want to do is to make use of your mobile banking app. So in the mobile banking app, those of you who have experience using, instead of keying the OTP, you actually click on allow, right? So that's what we call a push authentication, where instead of keying your numbers, a string of 6 numbers separately, you click on that allow and you log into your iBanking on your desktop. Okay, so use that as the alternative. You set up transaction alerts for your banking accounts. I personally, I'm very paranoid since I'm a security professional, right? So I set up alerts as little as 1 cent. So I want to know that even though there is a single cent of transaction going through my credit cards or my banking accounts, I'm informed of it. Now, I'm sure you know that in this particular case, right, even though some of them set up these alerts, they were unable to stop it. But that's really, I would say, OCBC's responsibility, because then they will need to set up more helplines to cater for these sort of scams, so that they can cater for them in a quicker possible time, rather than seeing your customers, right, getting tons of alerts and not being able to do anything about them. Okay, avoid clicking links. Like I said, MAS has already stopped the various financial institutions from putting links in their SMS. 2 weeks later, that's going to be implemented. But I think as a general rule of thumb, right, do not click any SMS links, or even WhatsApp, or any of your social media. Do not click on any links, because you really don't know what that can lead you to. So you might say that, oh yeah, it's okay for me to click, and then I go and have a look, because I'm very cautious. After I look already, right, I will not enter any of my credentials. But that's where you might be wrong. Sometimes simply by clicking on the link, you can get compromised. In the example that I just showed you, it was a very good demonstration, right? I just click on enable content, and then I was compromised. I did not even do anything at all. I did not click any links. So what happens over here is that always be safe than sorry. So don't click any links unless you're very, very sure. If you have to click on the link, right, type it out. So sometimes instead of URLs that contain letters, there are alphabets there might be alphabets that are on using another character set that look exactly like an A, like an O. That is how they trick you into clicking on these links. So rule of thumb, do not click on any links, and if you must, type out the URL. Okay, and scrutinize the URL like I mentioned also. Okay, that is to prevent yourself from falling prey to any kind of phishing attacks, as I mentioned. And of course, just like in the phishing telltale signs, you will find similar tactics in SMS phishing. Okay, so to end off, and I'm going to take questions now, I would like to end off with this quote, that there is no such thing as perfect IT security. Now, IT security, as I mentioned, is really about you versus the attacker or the scammer on the other side of the computer, of the machine. And because humans evolve all the time, tactics evolve all the time with humans, and they use all kinds of different new ways to scam and to trick people, as seen from this OCBC case that was very evident. So do not think that there is a silver bullet to IT security. any solution, any technology, antivirus that we implement, right, definitely will not be able to cover 100%. So that's it. You might ask me, wow, that is a very bleak outlook. So instead, what can you do? I think cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility right now. So a lot of people might think, hey, in this case, right, OCBC is the one at fault, right? Because now they are made to pay, and that reinforces the fact that the IT side is at fault. But a lot of times, as I've shown, right, it is not the IT side. It is really the humans that are to be blamed, because they fell prey to these social engineering attacks. So that's it, right? Everyone needs to be aware and educated in cybersecurity. And you can't just go for a single class, or even like go for attend this one webinar and say that, oh yes, I'm good at cybersecurity. It is a journey, a lifelong journey, because as we know, tech is here to stay, IT is here to stay. So you really need to continuously be aware, upgrade yourself, find out what's going on, so that we can constantly upkeep ourselves and be one step ahead of the attackers. Okay. So with that, we are almost time. I'm going to answer questions for the next 15 minutes. But that's it. If you want to know more about cybersecurity, we do have a course from School of Computing for Advanced Computing for Executives, which is for adult learners, basically. And this will be a full-day course conducted by myself, where I'll be touching more on these topics more in depth, and then you will get to learn, more about cybersecurity and how to protect yourself. Okay, so I'm going to answer questions, but I leave you on this page with